Midlands Today Show with Will Faulkner.
Midlands 103.
Quantity surveyors are not in great demand in Ireland anymore, but one Offaly man has managed to find work, only it's at a bit of a distance. Gemma Mullins is on the phone. Morning, Gemma.
Good morning, Will. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Your husband, Gary, left yesterday for Dubai, which on one level is great because he's working, but in so many other ways it must really, really suck.
Yeah, it's good news, but it's not great news too. He left yesterday morning, and he's left, unfortunately, 3 children behind. One as young as 4 months old.
And the rest?
I have a 2-year-old boy and a 15-year-old boy. Sorry, Will.
Oh, you're grand. Of course, they're going to miss him terribly, and you're missing him terribly.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. You know, we tried every last option to stay at home because we didn't want to have to go away. Now, I know in one sense we're very lucky that he has found work abroad, and there's many people who don't have that option.
But just give us an idea of how hard he tried to make ends meet here.
Okay, what happened, Will, was I lost my job 3 years ago. I was a quantity surveyor as well. And Gary was still working at the time, which was great. We had both just finished college. We went to college part-time in DIT in Bolton Street. Mm-hmm. We both worked during the day, and we travelled at night time 3 nights a week for 6 years to get our degrees. And when Gary, it was nearly kind of the start of the recession. Gary started his own company in construction. He specialises in steel, and he got some work and things were going okay. He was, making ends meet, and he was able to pay his bills, etc. And he took on one contract with the local developer who basically left him high and dry. He didn't pay him, and he liquidated his company, and Gary could never get paid. But we didn't liquidate, so we still had to pay basically on his behalf. We tried to pursue, and it
came to naught in the end.
Exactly. It's just the way that things work in this country. Once you've incorporated something into a building, it's no longer yours, whether you paid for it or not. But things didn't work out great with the company, and he voluntarily liquidated the company. He then started security, and he worked security full-time, just above minimum wage. We weren't able to make ends meet. He then then took over the lease of a nightclub, a local nightclub, hoping that we'd be able to even get work. We knew that we weren't going to make a fortune, but even if we could just get a wage. Yeah,
gosh, you really weren't sitting on your laurels. You tried just about everything and anything.
Everything. We tried everything, and that didn't work out for us, unfortunately. He then set up a fuel company, a depot in Portarlington, and he tried that for a while, and it did go okay, but unfortunately the weather this year was just terrible. So that didn't work out. Then he was lucky enough to get some work with the local construction company, and he's been there up to a few weeks ago, and that's how he made the contact in Dubai. And thankfully he did get work from it, but unfortunately it's not at home where we'd like it.
Yeah, and it's a 2-year contract doing what?
He's commercial manager, which is absolutely excellent. He's really looking forward to the job. It's a fantastic job with a fantastic company. He has committed to a minimum of 2 years, but there is permanent work out there should he wish to stay on, and all going well.
But the downside, as you've already pointed out, obviously, is that you're still at home, your kids are still at home. Was there any option to go with him?
We probably will have no option but to go out eventually, because he already is missing the kids, as you can imagine. We're devastated that he's gone. His family's devastated. He's in a completely different country, in a small little apartment, different culture, different languages. Everything's different. And he has very small kids who he really, really needs to be with. Like, our daughter is 4 months old, and if we don't see Gary for 3 months or 6 months or 9 months, so much happens in a child's life in that short space of time.
And I suppose on one level, I know you were chatting to him on Skype today, and technology is a help, but it never replaces being there in person, does it?
It does. Well, technology is fantastic, and we are lucky, I suppose, compared to years ago, but still, you can't pick up your son or daughter or give them a kiss goodnight or give them a hug when they're looking for you. Or, like, Jack was crying this morning, wanted to get into the computer after his daddy. He's kissing the screen.
Oh, no.
Crying. crying all day for the computer because he doesn't understand. He's too small to understand.
That's very hard to watch from your point of view as well.
Exactly. Every time he asks for him, like, you know, and Gary used to put him to bed every night. So last night he's crying and crying. He wants his daddy, and it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. And as I said to you, you know, if we did nothing and sat on our backsides, all well and good, but we're not to blame for what happened in this country, but we just feel that we're the ones who are being punished and punished and punished, and every time we try something, there's something else to just put you back all the time.
And why were you a little reluctant at first with the idea of going to Dubai yourself?
The weather isn't suitable for children. Like, we can't, first of all, we couldn't even go out this summer. My eldest son will be off school, and, you know, even besides the financial side of it, if we could afford to go out, we can't. It's nearly 50 degrees out there.
Gosh, that's stifling.
And the Emiratis, some of them even emigrate. They can't stick the heat out there. So I can't bring a 4-month-old and a 21-month-old to sit in a, you know, an air-conditioned one-bedroom apartment for 3 months or the like.
So you would be looking, hopefully, later in the year when it's a bit cooler, still very warm by our standards, but more manageable, then you might head out.
Exactly, all going well, and Gary's happy in the job and everything's working out. We definitely will. All we want is we just want to be together. Obviously, we prefer to be together at home in our own country. We just don't want to go. We absolutely love our home, and having to give it all up. But at the end of the day, you know, you have to feed your kids, and we want a better life, and things are just not getting any better here. They're just getting worse. Like, as I said, 3 years ago I lost my job, and for the last 3 years Gary has been struggling. At one stage he worked 3 jobs to try keep our heads above water, but that's it, keep our heads above water, and we're very lucky to do that. There's many people who can't do that.
And do you feel angry, resentful, sad? What way would you describe it?
So angry. All the emotions are hard, but the anger is the worst thing. I'm so angry. I really am fuming, because, as I said to you, like, there's so many young couples in our position, and we just feel that it's young families and young couples that are being punished and punished and punished, just more and more and more. And it's just so not fair, because, like, I know Enda Kenny thinks people borrowed recklessly and went mad borrowing or whatever he said, but, like, that's not true. People were not living beyond their means, I don't believe. Like, we had letters in...
Well, there were some, and here's the problem, that everybody's being punished for the sins of some.
Yeah, I know, I do agree, there were some, but the general, normal Joe Soap, I don't believe was. And I think, right, some people got into difficulty. You know, we got into a bit of difficulty probably. You know, we had a personal loan here, there and everywhere kind of thing. Not, you know, nothing major. There are people a lot worse off than us. But we had letters coming through our door every day of every week telling us we were pre-approved for this loan and we were pre-approved for that loan, and offering us credit cards and limits and maxes. And, I mean, it was absolutely ridiculous. And how they thought that people would ignore that and not take them up. Do you know what I mean? And, like...
Well, we're all paying for it now, in every sense, be it through accepting reduced services or paying more tax for those reduced services, or trying to meet these ridiculous interest demands from our overseas lenders. But it's the lot we have. It's the cards we've been dealt, and we just have to make the most of it, because you can be angry and you can be frustrated at bankers and at politicians for failing to oversee the bankers and so on and so forth, but the money is gone and there is an imbalance there. There is a deficit which has to be corrected, and it's going to be a pain in the ass for all of us. But I don't see what else we can do. We can revolt if we want, but we'll still have to pay the bills.
I do understand that, Will, and I do completely agree with what you're saying, and everybody is willing to do their bit. But I just feel it's the wrong people that are doing the most, if you know what I mean. I can guarantee you that Bertie Ahern or Fianna Fáil or the bankers or the developers, they're not living on €188 a week. I can guarantee you they're not. You know, and they're not expected to. And I can guarantee you they have no problem paying their household charge, and that €100 is not going to mean that they have to, you know, take food from their kids' mouths. And that is exactly how people are living. As I said, fortunately, Gary did have work for the last while, and we have been so lucky. We have fabulous friends and family around us. We're very lucky. But there are people that are around us who can't, you know, they don't have the opportunity that we have to go to Dubai. They can't go on anymore. They don't know what else to do. They don't know where to turn, who to turn to. There's no help out there for them.
Well, Gemma, I have to say, I admire your strength, because if Alex was gone for months on end or possibly years on end, I just wouldn't function. I wouldn't be able to have a conversation like you are today. So you're a tower of strength. Well done.
Thank you very much, Will. Thanks a lot.
And our thoughts are with you. Thanks for sharing your story.